Welcome back, everybody. My name's Daniela, and we are doing another crafting with a cocktail today. Today's featured cocktail is a cranberry apple mule, so we are going to jump right into that and then get started on some more fall and Halloween crafts. Let's do it. Hello, vodka, my old friend. I came to drink with you again. All right, guys, let's check out our ingredients today. I've got a lime, I've got some local ginger beer, which is fun, and some Smirnoff cranberry apple fruit juice infused vodka. So I'm starting with our lime here and just cutting it into a few slices. Traditional Moscow mules are vodka, ginger beer, and limes, but I'm using our cranberry apple vodka to make it a little bit more fall and a little more festive. So it's lower percentage, so I did fill it up quite a bit, and then I'm adding my ginger beer to top it off. I like to add 2 lime slices, but you can add 1 or more if you would like. I also don't have cute little copper Moscow Mule mugs, so I'm using this glass one. Now I'm just mixing it up, and next we're going to give it a try. All right, we've got our cranberry apple mule all nice and ready, and so let's take a sip. Ugh, it's so good. It's so good. It's refreshing. It almost tastes like you know when they come out that cranberry Sierra Mist every year and it's to die for and it's only limited edition? That's what this tastes like. Yum. All right, let's get crafting. On to the crafts. So all of our crafts are actually signs today, so we're going to start with this cute leaf thankful sign. So I've got this cute leaf tray from Dollar Tree as well as these loose leaves and some metal signs that came with it. Came with 3. And I'm just using some brown paint that I had on hand as well as my hot glue gun. First, we're going to flip it over and take off that label because we are actually going to be working with the back of the leaf. So I'm squirting my brown paint onto my messy acrylic paper plate, which you've seen before, and I'm using this chippy brush and my drink to cover up the back of that leaf. I am just doing little strokes everywhere to make it nice and textured. I thought about spray painting this, but I thought that the textured look would give it an extra special touch and kind of go with the theme of this fall, like pile of leaves type of look. So here I am making sure to cover that whole leaf. Again, just using quick short strokes with my chippy brush, and it will give it a nice texture. The silver shows through a bit, but it's not as bright or shiny as it was originally. Make sure you take a second look and get all of the edges of your leaf. Here's what we've got so far, and we are just going to let it dry before we do anything else. After several minutes, our leaf is finally dry. Guys, I totally need a heat gun to dry my stuff. It takes forever otherwise. Now I'm taking those little loose leaves that I've gotten from the Dollar Tree and arranging them to see where I want them to cover my leaf, and then I'll place my sign on top of that. So I like to have a nice variety of color and also a little bit of balance, so I'm just placing them where I think they might look good. Then I'm taking my thankful sign and debating where I want to put it. Once I've done that, I start to glue my leaves down. I'm using my hot glue gun to do this, really carefully not to burn myself. As you know, I burn myself a lot, but I was pretty good during this one, so I'm feeling good about just laying the glue on and just barely tapping it. We are just going to zoom through this leaf gluing process. Zooma, 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 zoom, zoom, zoom. Anybody remember that? No, just me. Okay. Well, now that they've all been glued, looking cute, we are going to get our thankful sign ready. So again, I'm imagining where exactly I want to place it. And then I realized that I felt like it didn't have enough contrast or it didn't stand out enough. So I'm taking a little bit of white paint onto my messy plate and then taking a small brush, dabbing off some of the paint and just loosely painting it. I'm essentially just using the dry brushing technique by dabbing my brush in a little bit of white paint and then rubbing it off on my paper towel or napkin before painting it onto my sign. I don't want it to be completely opaque. I just kind of want a nice hazy white paint on top of it just to give it a little bit of texture and again to help it stand out in front of my leaf sign. So here you see I am just making sure to cover every little inch of my sign before getting ready to glue it. All right, she is ready. I'm taking my hot glue gun. Again, making sure I'm putting it in the right place and just carefully adding glue in a few spots. I don't want my glue to ooze out of the sides of my sign, so I'm being very careful to just add a few little dots here and there. Once I've got it laid down, I just make sure that any kind of pieces that are lifting up are secured by gluing those little edges down as well. So I was lucky enough to have this multicolored yarn right next to my crafting station. It's got a bunch of different colors, but they're all kind of toned down or more fall type colors with some burgundies, some toned down greens, yellows, etc. So I'm taking a piece of that, cutting it, then I knotted it, and now I'm just flipping over my sign and gluing it in place. This is going to be helpful to hang our piece. So you just want to put a little bit of hot glue, dab it on there, and she is done. Look at how freaking good she turned out. Amazing. Love it. Cute little thankful sign. Thank you, Dollar Tree. Thank you, Moscow Mule. Our second sign is this cute little sequin spooky sign. I found this funny framed yum sign at Dollar Tree. Thought it would be perfect because of its orange ribbon and orange sequins. Ignore that blue paint because I don't end up using it, but I do use the purple and the white paint. So I am just going to peel off the back of this, which ended up being easier than I expected. I really didn't end up needing my craft knife whatsoever. So I just peel it off with my bare hands and it comes right off. Then I need a sip of my drink before I can move on, which would be taking out that back part of the frame. So I'm just lifting up those little metal pieces and taking out both that almost cardboard-like piece and the piece of paper. I'm going to carefully take my sequins and pour them into this little sandwich Ziploc bag so I can save them for later and then put them in. This is the worst freaking part of this craft and this video. I tried so hard to get that yum sign off. I thought for sure alcohol will just rub it right off. So I tried and tried. Oop, no success there. And I literally didn't give up. I tried numerous methods. Scratching it with my X-Acto knife works, but that seems like it would take forever. So here I am dousing it in it, thinking that maybe that'll help if it's really soaked in there. And then I try some pure acetone. Alcohol won't work. Acetone, right? Nope. Google told me soap and water would work. Nope. That didn't work either. So I literally ended up having to use my X-Acto knife and scratch off every single bit of this. This took forever. Once I scraped it all off, I could still see little tiny bits of the white. So I'm using this glittery acrylic medium on the glass in the corner where the yum was. And I think it'll give it some dimension anyways because it'll be behind the rest of the painting that I do and add a nice sparkle in addition to our sequins. So I'm just taking that nice glitter glue, glitter acrylic medium, whatever you want to call it, and spreading it throughout. And this helps distract it from those little tiny white marks that I really had a hard time scraping off with my X-Acto knife. Look how cute and sparkly. Keep in mind, all that gooey stuff is going to dry clear. So it looks a little lumpy now, but for the most part, it is looking cute. Now I'm using that piece of paper that was in the background of the original framed piece, and I'm using some purple crafter's paint on it. You could, of course, use some cute Halloween or plain colored cardstock, but I didn't have any on hand, so I decided to just use paint. So I'm spreading it throughout the piece of paper and eventually realizing that it is not covering well. Once I realized that this is not going to cover in one or even probably two layers, I've decided to add a little bit of white onto my paper. Adding white to any color helps make it a little bit more opaque. So that's what I'm doing here, is just setting another layer and letting that dry. Sip, 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 bottoms up. Alright, she's finally dry, so I am adding, again, another layer of my purple paint to the background of this spooky sign project. While that's drying, I am going to paint the front of my frame. So now I'm painting on the front of the glass, and I'm using white paint and a thin brush to make some spider webs. I do one spider web in each corner, making one a little larger than the other, just for a little bit of asymmetry so it's not looking a little too matchy-matchy. So each spider web I've got on here has 4 or more lines going down to the corners, and then what I do is continue with my white paint and just make some curved, I don't know, concave, convex, I don't know, some U-ish shapes to connect all the pieces of the webs together. You can see that I do several layers of this for each one of them. And we are just going to speed it up for the second one since you kind of got an idea from the first one. I'll do another mini spider web in the next project, but hopefully you can kind of get the idea from this one of how to connect all those lines that are pointing to the corner of our picture frame. We're going to let that white part dry for a few minutes, and once it is completely dry, we're going to use a small brush again with some black paint and start spelling out the word spooky. You can, of course, use a Cricut with some vinyl if you wanted to. I just decided to hand paint this on because I really like the homemade kind of look to it. So here I am just painting out the letters for the word spooky. I kind of like this tall, thin technique. I thought it would help fill up a little more space and look really cute in this instance. Make sure that you take a close look after you do the whole thing and fill in any space where it may not look full. Here is the progress so far. And now we finally get to add our sequins back in. So I'm dumping them into the back of the frame and then placing our dry piece of purple paper on top of that, as well as that hard cardboard piece. And then once you grab your drink, you can move on to closing that up and hot gluing the back of the thinner cardboard. It's almost like craft paper, but a little bit thicker. So again, you're just going to use your hot glue and go around all the edges, gluing that back on. Make sure you just do it section by section so that the glue doesn't dry too fast. You want to make sure everything sticks. So I did the upper part first, and now as you can see, I'm gluing the rest of it. Again, so I avoid burning myself, I'm going to use some scissors to help lay it nice and flat on the back of our piece. Look how stinking cute this turned out. I love it. Obviously, like, the sequins only move if you shake them, but I don't care. It's cute. She's cute. You can also even, like, if you want to do, like, paint a little spider crawling up here, whatever. Hang it up. Lean it on a shelf. Love it. So cute. On to the next one. 100% that which even when I'm crying crazy. Okay, this one was totally inspired by Lizzo, if you guys know the song Truth Hurts, but it's the Halloween version. So I took this little sign I got from the Crafter's Square at Dollar Tree and some black paint. We are going to start by taking out our twine or rope that's hanging it up because we don't want to get paint on there by accident. Once we've gotten that off, we can finally start to paint our sign. We are just going to paint the front. Back doesn't really matter since it would be hanging up against the wall or whatever else. But you can just take some plain black paint and cover this whole thing. I totally need to jump on the Waverly chalk paint thing because I don't own any and I see it in every Dollar Tree DIY. But for the meantime, just using plain acrylic black paint that I got from a craft store. Make sure you get all of those edges too. Now I'm taking this cutout that I created on my Cricut saying 100% that witch, and I am making sure that I like the positioning. My lazy way of measuring it is I'm just going to put tape on all 4 sides of my sign and then place it in the middle of all of that. So once you've gotten all of your edges taped up nice, you know that it will be centered once you lay it down. So here I am placing it on top of that, realizing that the edges go over the sides of the blue tape, which is fine. I'm just going to carefully peel those off before pressing my vinyl down. I didn't feel like getting that scraper thing, so I'm just using the back of a bottle of paint to press down all of my letters and making sure that they are nice and stuck to my sign. Then I'm very carefully peeling up my transfer tape, just a little bit at a time, which was actually the easiest part of all this. I am totally still learning how to use Cricut because it is hard, for me at least. Now, again, being lazy, and I see that little spot, so I'm just going to use my finger and some black paint to cover it up because I had already washed my brushes. Once that's dry, I'm just using regular Elmer's glue and creating a thin border following the shape of my sign. Once I've gotten that entire border covered with a thin line of glue, I'm using some fun fuchsia purplish glitter and sprinkling it all over my sign. Admittedly, I should have put a paper down underneath it ahead of time, but I eventually realized that that would be smart so that I can shake all the loose glitter back into my jar. I do end up doing that off screen, you just don't see it here. So once I have shaken off all of that glitter and let it dry, because we don't want to smudge that Elmer's glue, I'm taking a paintbrush, a dry paintbrush, and just brushing off any loose glitter. Then I'm using some, actually this is fabric paint, but you could totally use puffy paint. This ends up drying puffy anyways, but I happen to have it already on hand. So I'm using some silver glitter puffy fabric paint, which looks really foggy now, but it ends up drying nice and clear with just the sparkles showing. I make, again, a little spider web on the bottom of my sign, and to help balance it out, I make a miniature one on the top of my sign as well. You can see I'm connecting all those little tiny U shapes again. After a few hours, it will finally be dry, unless I had a heat gun, and I am taping the edges of that twine that came with the sign to stick it back through the holes. So I do this with both sides of each string, sticking them through the front of the sign. Once I have done that, I can just pull off my tape and tie a little knot onto each end so that they don't come loose if I pull on the string. Here is our sign. Look how cute it turned out. Love it. And that's it. We have completed 3 super cute and cheap signs from Dollar Tree materials that are ready for fall or Halloween. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.